System check. Welcome back to the standard where we decompile the misery so you don't have to. We just witnessed a legacy outlier, a 1-2 home loss to Leeds United. The last time this specific error code was generated at Old Trafford, the IBM PC hadn't even launched, and Physical by Olivia Newton-John was top of the charts. Coincidentally, United's defensive physicality also seems to have stayed in 1981. For months, the Carrick OS has been running on high uptime, tricking us into thinking the tactical debt had been paid. Then Noah Okafor shows up like a zero-day exploit and executes 2 flawless scripts before the half-hour mark. We weren't just beaten, we were out-coded by Daniel Farke's 532 firewall. While we were playing possession.exe, Leeds was running a high-efficiency counter routine that turned our midfield into a giant memory leak. And then the hardware failure of the century. Lisandro Martinez, the butcher, our most reliable processor, decided to manually override the rules of physics by attempting a hair pull on Dominic Calvert-Lewin. In 2026, under the gaze of 1,000 VAR sensors. That's not a tactical foul, Licha. It's a catastrophic unhandled exception. The ref didn't just show a red card, he basically hit the factory reset button on our comeback chances. And is this just a one-off variance glitch? Or is the Carrick firmware fundamentally incompatible with the INEOS vision for a high-press future? Today we are going forensic. We are stripping back the noise, analyzing the spatial crashes, and finding out why our £100 million components are currently functioning like trialware. Smash that execute button. Let's decompile the Roses Derby. And let's decompile the 5th minute first. Usually a Michael Carrick team has a high security firewall in the build-up. But look at Anton Stach's cross. It's a classic injection attack. Our backline, specifically the Mazraoui, Yodo, Martinez, Shaw cluster, was still loading its primary defensive subroutines while Leeds were already executing their final script. Noah Okafor didn't just score, he found a 0-day vulnerability in our spatial tracking. He is completely unmarked. It's like we left the admin password as password123 and were shocked when Farke's script walked straight through the front door. Now look at the midfield architecture. With Kobe Mainu out, Ugarte stepped in for his first start under Carrick. That should have been a hardware upgrade for our ball retrieval metrics. Right? Wrong. The synergy between Ugarte and Casemiro was a compatibility error. They were overlapping in the same sector of the pitch, creating a massive memory leak in the pivot. Leeds didn't even have to hack us. They just waited for the system to hang. By the 29th minute, Okafor is 20 yards out. He hits a volley. It takes a deflection of Lenny Yoro. That's not just bad luck. That's high variance noise hitting a system that's already destabilized. Poor Senel Amens. The kid is trying to process incoming data, but when your center backs are throwing null pointer exceptions and the deflection reroutes the ball's trajectory, his response time hits 999 ms latency. You can't save a packet that's been corrupted mid-flight. At 02, the Old Trafford servers were essentially under a DDoS attack. We were over-allocating resources to the wings with Ahmad and Cunha, but our core processing unit, the midfield, was essentially offline. Farke's 532 was the ultimate counter script. It created a low-level format of our attacking thread. Every time we tried to compile a sequence through Bruno, Leeds had 3 nodes waiting to intercept and redirect the data. We were running attacking football.exe on a machine that didn't have enough RAM to handle Leeds' transition speed. We weren't just losing the Roses Derby, we were being decompiled in real time. Alright, let's talk about the hardware malfunction that killed the comeback. 56th minute, we're finally showing some signs of a system recovery. The fans are uploading energy into the Stretford Standard servers, and then Lisandro Martinez, a player we usually praise for his elite processing speed, has a total kernel panic. He engages in a physical tussle with Dominic Calvert-Lewin and, tries to manually reconfigure Calvert-Lewin's hair. In the world of VAR, that's not a dark arts feature. That's a critical violation of the protocol. Carrick called it shocking in the post-match logs. He was trying to argue it was a shirt tug logic error. Sorry, Michael, but the high-definition sensors at Stockley Park don't care about your sentiment. Leachard didn't just touch the hair, he pulled the scrunchie out like he was trying to uninstall Calvert-Lewin's personality. It's an unhandled exception. When you're 0-2 down and trying to debug a Roses Derby, the last thing you do is provide the referee with a reason to hit the Alt plus F4 on your defensive line. It was idiotic, it was unnecessary, and it was a total lapse in professional firmware. Now look at the systemic impact. With Licha ejected, our defensive architecture lost its primary core. We had to shift to a emergency mode 4-4-1. Casemiro is dropping deep. Bruno is running a marathon just to keep the communication lines open. And suddenly we are playing 2026 football with a 1981 disadvantage. The variance just skyrocketed. We went from a 35% probability of a draw to a 5% survival rate in a single frame. This wasn't just a red card, it was a data wipe of our tactical plan for the second half. 69th minute, the system attempts a hot patch. Bruno Fernandes, who spent most of the match acting as a secondary router trying to find any stable signal, pings a perfect cross into the box. Casemiro connects, goal. Suddenly the Old Trafford atmosphere.exe starts consuming 100% of the CPU. We are down to 10 men, we are running on a backup power supply, but the system is showing signs of a miraculous recovery. For a second it looked like we were going to bypass the 1-2 deficit and force a draw through sheer brute force attacking. But here's the thing about statistical noise. Eventually, it filters out the hope. We had the chances. Šeško and Casemiro had efforts cleared off the line in the final minutes. Literal dropped packets at the goal mouth. If any of those bits of data convert, the narrative changes to a heroic draw. But the underlying logic was flawed. We were playing with a depleted defensive core and a midfield that had already hit its thermal limit. By the time the 7 minutes of stoppage time expired, the system didn't just fail, it regressed to the mean. You can't run a top 4 build-up with a 45-year-old bug in the code. And now the system update rumors. While we were decompiling this loss, the INEOS server started leaking news about Julian Nagelsmann. It's the classic corporate move. The moment the current OS hits a high-profile crash, the board starts looking for a more expensive German-engineered alternative. Is Carrick just a placeholder.exe until the World Cup concludes? The loss to Leeds didn't just drop us 3 points, no. It might have just corrupted Carrick's permanent manager file beyond repair. So, was the Roses Derby a one-time glitch or a sign that our current architecture is fundamentally unstable? We are third for now, but with Chelsea coming up, the system requirements are only getting higher. If we don't patch the discipline and the transition defense, we are going to be looking at a full system reformat come June. Thanks for joining the forensic unit today. If you enjoyed this debug, hit execute on the like button. If you think Carrick deserves a permanent license, drop a comment. If you want the Nagelsmann firmware, well, keep your notifications on. This is the Stretford Standard, and the system for now is now offline. Glory, glory, Man United. We move.